camera. I've got one of those little things that you just, and every time I get on, even this morning at BNI, I'm like, why am I not showing up? And then I look, I'm like, oh, because my camera's covered.
It happens.
It does. I'm glad she's not using the camera. I'm glad she, that's good to know.
Yeah. Yep. How's everybody doing so far today?
Okay.
What would make it great?
Well, it would be great this afternoon because I'm going to go lay by my friend's pool.
Oh.
And enjoy this last probably little bit of 80s weather.
Wow. Yeah,
So,
no kidding.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, I just figured it might make me, you know, a little sunshine. So.
Well, excellent.
It is beautiful.
We're going to get rolling. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, you know, this is either session 2 or session 1, depending on how you look at it. I call it session 2.1 because destination is normally the first session, but I like to do that 6 steps because it really gives everybody an overview. So I'll say something on the front end. First of all, thanks for being here. You might find that this information, if you look at the attachments and take all that too seriously, it's going to be way too much information. So I just want to re-emphasize that those are resources. Those aren't things that you have to dive knee deep into. They're things to pace over several weeks probably and just do a little bit of work on them. But sometimes having those tools in our hands helps us realize things that we can be doing for our business, if that makes sense. Sound like a winner? We'll go ahead and get rolling. And if you don't have noise in the background, feel free to have your microphone on or off. I'll ask for feedback as we go through, but otherwise we're going to get started. So let me see who we have. I'm having trouble forwarding my screen here real quick, so bear with me. There we go. All right, cool. So case in point, the 100 questions that I sent out to everybody, that was back a while back. I know that that's a lot of information and a lot of questions, and it doesn't always apply to really small businesses. However, my hope is that it got you thinking about the different areas of your business that are going to be things you're going to need to look at. So that was really the idea behind the 100 questions. And then that's really my question is, did it actually accomplish that? Did it actually cause you to think about any parts of your business that you hadn't really thought much about so far? Anybody? I'm getting thumbs up and heads nods.
It just made me realize how much of my business that I did have things that I was doing well and like now not doing so well because of everything that's happened in the last 6 months. And I've kind of been like, oh, you know, just, I don't want to say throwing in the towel, but I'm just kind of like, you know, and I see that there are things that I probably should have been focusing on and working on that I could have been working on during this time. So that's
I really appreciate you sharing that because that's huge, actually. I don't want to go too deep into this, but when you look at personality styles, the personality styles that are more detail-oriented, more organized, more thinking style versus selling, action, I'll deal with the details later. Those are, this pandemic, like a recession, has really brought forth those personality styles, and the businesses that are doing well or have done better are the ones where people are, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to have it figured out. I'm just going to move forward. And I know both of you have done that. But it does serve as a reminder when you look at a questionnaire like that. I mean, I have it in my business too. There's things that I look back at and go, you know, I really could have done that 3 months ago or 4 months ago or 6 months ago. So that is an awesome learning. And here's the thing, not to be a bearer of bad news. I don't think this is a surprise. This is going to be around a while. So if we haven't done the things we need to do yet, we've got some runway ahead of us. So, you know, now is the time to think about prioritizing the things you need to do. And I think that what we're going to go through today helps. It's a good starting point, and that's the reason I do destination first, because if you don't know where you want to go, there's really no path to get there. You just, we kind of wander, and it creates a lot of stress when we don't have a plan. So that's good. About the homework, why it's important, it's for things like that. When you do the homework that I recommend during this whole series, it's going to reteach, reinvigorate. You get double the value. People who don't do the homework don't get as much value out of this. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. I'm going to pause for just a second because I was expecting one other person to be on with us, and I want to find out real quick if she's having trouble getting on. Let me take a note here real quick, because I had actually talked to Adrienne yesterday, and she was going to be joining us. I don't see a message from her. All right, I don't normally do that, but I just talked to her yesterday, so I thought she'd be here. Anyway, back to the message at hand. All right, let's see. Y'all know each other. Chris, are you in a place where you can introduce yourself? I know you got us on mute right now, but Chris, are you in a position where you can participate, or do you have noise in the background right now?
Oh, no, I just had it on mute because I was taking a drink, and I've got kids upstairs at lunchtime. So, but yes,
Awesome.
Chris Barrett.
Awesome. Great to see you. Yeah, so tell us who you are, where you're from, what you do, and maybe something about this company you're starting that makes you proud.
All right. Name's Chris Parrott. I live in Matthews, North Carolina, and I'm starting a cleaning business more to the nature of helping apartment complexes and realtors with their needs as far as people moving out or getting ready to move into a home or an apartment, and we come in and clean it and get it ready for the people about to move in. And what makes me proud about this business? Growth, being able to own my own business and being able to do something that not many people in my family have done. So being able to own my own business.
Love it. Well, thanks for sharing. And Paul and Rochelle, maybe you can introduce yourselves to Chris so he knows a little bit about what you do.
I'll go first. I'm Rochelle Settle, and I live in Fort Mill, South Carolina, but originally I call my hometown is Bourbonnais, Illinois, so south of Chicago. I am a travel agent, and so I have my own travel business, and I am the owner and also the travel advisor. So that's my company and my role, and then all the other things that go along with it. Something I'm proud of is this, like last month was my 4 years in the travel business. And for the last 2 years, I've earned our company's Circle of Excellence. And this year I finished in the top 50 of 4,000 agents. So pretty proud of that.
That is awesome. Great job. Thank you. What about you, Paul?
That's fantastic, Rochelle. Yeah, so Paul Palomino, hometown, like where do I live now? I live in TQK, South Carolina, but I'm kind of from all over, but mostly Southern California. I grew up, most of my growing up years was in upstate New York, but for 30 years I lived in Southern California, which is where all my family's from. So moved here about 6 years ago with my wife and 2 daughters. So I'm starting a business. I'm currently full-time in sales for digital marketing, so helping companies get found online. And I love that, and I'm pretty decent at it. And had a great year last year. I was actually the Rookie of the Year for the company, which was pretty amazing. You only get one shot at that per company, I suppose. But recently I had 2 conversations that kind of have changed the direction One was with Dave Stipe, who's also in our BNI group, Rochelle, and with Rochelle and myself. And then my daughter, who was looking at graduating high school and was a little bit kind of freaked out about what she's going to do and whether she should try to go to college if she doesn't know what she's going to do. And just and that and the other thing, try to make this a little shorter. We're going to go into business and we're going to do an appliance repair business. There's a whole way we came about that, but that's probably what I'm most proud about, is that when we came to that conclusion and started down this path, she said, you know what I'm most excited about, Dad, is I'm going to get to do this with you. So that's what I'm most proud about.
That is super
Wow.
awesome. Well, and I'm so glad. Am I the first to hear of this?
No, Mike's heard of it, a couple other people, and I'm not really spreading it around the BNI yet, just because I don't want to,
Right.
cause any confusion or anything like that, because I am still working full time with my other thing, but hopefully soon we'll be maybe even transitioning into running a business that's growing.
Well, congratulations. Super
Thanks,
excited
Rochelle.
for you.
That's
Awesome. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. So, an abrupt transition. So, you guys are good at this, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but really the way that you get the most out of things like this is to participate. And when we don't participate, that's failure in and of itself. But you guys participate in a big way. This is just kind of our calling card. So that's the whole idea of what we're doing here. And then, we'll try to keep it informative and both fun. That should be easy with a smaller group. Sometimes when I have groups of 10 or more, there's just not as much opportunity for us all to participate. That can make it a little less exciting, but that's not going to be a problem. Now, this is something that everyone understands, but you may or may not have heard it before. And that's called a BFO. And before we jump to conclusions, that's just a blinding flash of the obvious. So we've all been around a while. We've all been in business a while, one way or another. And a blinding flash of the obvious is when two things that were previously known, you finally see a connection between the two of them. And that's that aha moment where you go, oh, I see how that works. So a lot of what we do at ActionCOACH is new and educational, but a lot of what we do is just connecting the dots and making things make sense and giving us a format through which to really build a great business for the long haul. So, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but you can feel free to put this in the chat. And what we'll do is if you click the chat, there's a button there that should say file on it. And at the end, if you click the file button, you can actually save the chat. So you can have a copy of all the chat that goes through this webinar, and so can I. So if you think about it, think about maybe one thing that you're hoping to get out of this whole Action Club experience, or two, and just write it down. For some people, it's to increase money. Some people, it's free time. Other people, it's confidence. Oh, there's Adrian. Perfect. Hello, Adrian. She might have herself on mute. So anyway, just take a minute, and then I'll go on to the next slide. And like I said, I don't want to park there too long. But the reason that it's important before we start out, it kind of goes with the theme of destination, is, there's this thing called a reticular activating system. Has anybody ever purchased a car, and then after you purchase that car, what do you notice? Any volunteers? What do you notice after you purchase a car? You notice
Start seeing that same car everywhere.
Same car, same color of cars. I didn't realize there were so many blue cars on the road, right? That's a reticular activating system. Once we do something significant in our life that creates an imprint on our brain, or something that's new, our brain automatically starts looking for ways to make sense of it. So it looks for things that are like that to really make sense of it. That's one of the challenges. I don't want to make a medical statement here, but that's one of the challenges with this whole COVID-19 experience, is when we went into quarantine and still we're in some form of lockdown, our brain is searching for something to make sense of all this, and it isn't finding anything. So that's one of the reasons that people felt discombobulated, depressed. I mean, in addition to missing people, it's because our mind doesn't have a place to put this. So when we set goals, like we just did, something that we want to get out of this, our brain goes to work trying to find ways to make that happen. And you've heard this before, when you write down goals, that alone doubles the chance that you're going to achieve them. And then if you have any type of accountability or follow-up, you're 80% more likely to achieve those goals than if it's just something you think about, which I like to call those a wish. But anyway, goals are the compass for our brain, and by writing things down, it gets that process started. So why do I do this? This is kind of how I got into ActionCOACH and doing ActionCLUB. 67% of small businesses fail in the first 10 years, and the rate is even higher if it's a non-franchise business. And overall, less than 40% of businesses are profitable. Now, that was before COVID-19. The numbers now, who only knows what they are? I've heard really wild estimates. The restaurant sector's hit hard, retail hospitality, but needless to say, there are a whole lot of businesses out there that are struggling. And what I found, this is just anecdotal evidence in about 10 years of working with business owners or talking to business owners, many of them have had businesses before that have failed, and now they're in business again, is number one, they can't manage everything. Number two, cash flow. They grow too fast, and then they don't get paid from their vendors in time enough to pay their people, or to pay their customers don't pay them quickly enough to pay their vendors. Their vendors shut them down and tell the marketplace they don't have money, they're having trouble, and it creates this snowball effect. Or they bounce between these extremes, and it just becomes fatiguing and tiring, and owning a business can be on your mind 24/7 if it's going really well or if it's not going well. So all that really creates a wonderful recipe for burnout. And that's one of the things that we do within ActionCLUB University, is we just try to help a business owner have a format and a construct within which to operate a business successfully and build it successfully. The other reason that motivates me and helps me enjoy what I do is most business owners only manage to really only have or create another job, which we use as an acronym for just over broke. The average business owner, depending on the industry, only makes between $50,000 and $75,000 a year in terms of after cost proceeds, and that's not an insignificant amount of money. When you think about the risk that's involved, that can be not a whole lot of money, right? So one of the things we want to do is we want to help a business owner get past that. And again, this is a review from last time. Our definition of a successful business is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without you. So it may not work fully without you. It might be your desire to be a one-person or two-person company, and that's fine. However, if you have an outsourced bookkeeper, or you have outsourced marketing, or you have outsourced name it, that's getting the business to run without you. So that's what we're all about. And then you may recall this was the bigger picture construct that we use, the 6 steps, the levels of a thriving business. Really important stuff. We talked about mastery and leverage and team and niche and synergy. And we're not going to get into synergy and results too much during this segment of ActionCLUB, but the mastery and the niche, mastery is something that we're going to hit really hard today. And then again, this was the summary page that's very, very busy. But the reason that I show it is because it shows you that you really can kind of take the fundamental idea of what is a successful business and fit it on one page, which I don't know, that helps me mentally. It might make you crazy, but there's really a limited number of things that if we really pay attention to them and work on them, our chances skyrocket in terms of success and speed of success in our business. So this week's topic, without further ado, first of all, any questions before we jump into destination? Any questions, anybody? Cool. All right, so your destination starts with vision. Now, I've heard vision, mission, purpose, all of these things are kind of used interchangeably. Have any of you seen a company that has a vision or a mission that's about that long? Has anybody seen anything like that? You know, they're really complicated. That's not what we're about. When we start talking about destination and vision, I'll talk about this more later, but we want to have stage appropriate vision for our company, stage appropriate destination. And here's the example I like to use. If you're scaling the side of a steep mountain or hill, you reach a point where you start to get above the tree line. And you can see more and more sunlight now because the line of sight is only obscured by the trees at your level. So at that level, you can start to see more. And the higher you start to scale that mountain, the more your vision and your destination might change. But when we're relatively new in our business, we sort of sometimes can't see the forest for the trees because we're at ground level. So we have to make sure that we have a vision that's appropriate for our size. And a vision isn't really a goal. It's really more of a legacy, you know, and I'll share some examples here. But to reach your destination, it's best to begin with the end in mind. Why is that? Well, you've probably heard this example before. The shortest distance between 2 points is what? Straight line. If we don't have a clear idea of where we want to go and we meander, that takes time, it takes money, it causes frustration, and it can cause burnout. I have seen business owners whose business has done this. It's been the proverbial roller coaster, where they've hit the high, they hit a ceiling of complexity they weren't prepared for, and then they lost a couple of people and they're back down to the bottom, and then they do it again. And that's the type of thing we want to try to minimize. You may not be able to avoid it completely, but you do want to minimize it. So that's why we begin with the end in mind, and it's kind of borrowing from what Stephen Covey teaches. So destination really does start with company vision. And we'll start with what is a company vision statement. Well, company vision statement should be very big picture, and it would grow over time. It should be something that's challenging and a stretch. If it's easily identifiable and exact, gosh, it's hard to, sometimes that's hard to actually attain. But when your business is doing what you want it to do, one of the questions you can ask is, when your business is doing what you want it to do, what will it look like? That's one question you can ask to figure out your vision. And another way to look at it is, this is kind of your why. It's the impact you plan to have. So I'm going to give an example, and then we can have some discussion on it. The other thing to keep in mind when we set a vision, if it's just about us, others won't buy in. They might buy, but they won't buy in. So the degree to which, this probably sounds a little cheesy, but the degree to which it really does kind of make the world a better place, it's easier for people to buy into things that aren't just about you. If my vision was, well, I'd really like to have a 63 split window Corvette like my dad used to have when I was a kid. That's probably not real motivating to my clients. It's probably not real motivating to my vendors or the rest of the world. They really don't care. They might think that that would be nice for me to have them, but it's not going to motivate them. So the degree to which our vision can be about something bigger than us, there's a lot of ancillary benefits there. So one other thing, we want it, for it to be compelling, it needs to enroll and inspire. So think about that. A vision for a business needs to be something that will enroll and inspire. Now, when you think about enroll and inspire, does anybody have a thought on what that means or who I might be talking about? Who do we want to enroll or who do we want to inspire? I kind of gave the answer already, but.
Your clients, your vendor, I mean, the people that you're in business with, I mean.
Exactly.
Your employees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can anyone think of a business or a person they know who you just want them to win because you think what they're doing is great? And this goes beyond BNI, but you just have a belief, a fundamental belief that what they're doing is making the world a better place. So you want to help them. Can anybody think of a business like that? I could probably have some great examples in mind.
I think in our BNI, which, isn't going to help Chris in this, but Paige Boykin is a perfect example of someone that I like I want to see win, because she is such a giver and such, she really cares about every single person, clients, not clients, just the community. So she would be a person that comes to my mind right away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And that's the type of thing we want to think about. Now, we don't want to think about it too hard, and we don't want to create or contrive something that's not consistent with who we are. But it's extremely valuable if we enroll and inspire. And the best example that I could come up with that everybody would know about is Girl Scouts. I'm sure Girl Scouts has its problems. However, there's something fundamental in their message about helping young girls become successful women and creating confidence and equipping them with the skills that they're going to need to succeed in life. Who says no to Girl Scout cookies? Whether you like them or can eat them or not, almost everybody is willing to buy Girl Scout cookies because they believe in the cause or they believe in little girls. But that's just one of those where when you think about it, almost everybody's willing to help the Girl Scouts. So the degree to which we can make our business about how we help people and change lives, that is huge in our vision. And I really want to stretch, even at our size of businesses, it's even more important because that will give us the energy, enthusiasm. You mentioned Paige. She's doing something to make people want to help her. You mentioned she's a giver. Well, that's a direct give. If our give is to the community or our product or service really benefits people, and all of yours do, we really need to grab a hold of that. So here's some sample vision statements. And I honestly just pulled these off the internet because they were relatively simple, not big companies, and they seem to be in line with what we were talking about. AK Steel, dedication to safely producing the highest quality steel products for our customers. Doesn't say anything about the world. Anago Cleaning Systems, to teach others to become successful. Okay. I like this one. Literature and Latte is committed to making the best writing software possible. Not sure what latte has to do with it. Maybe it's lat. Maybe I'm mispronouncing that. But anyway, New Belgian Brewing Company, to manifest our love and talent by crafting our customers' favorite brands and improving business can be a force for good. So these are just some examples. Bowman, here's another one. You can read them on your own time. Here's a couple of others. ActionCOACH, I told you that I had about a 10-year courtship with ActionCOACH where I knew about the company and we just stayed in touch, but I wasn't ready yet. And when I first read this, World Abundance Through Business Re-Education, I won't go into a commercial about ActionCOACH, but I think I spoke about this before during the last segment that, you know, if you can re-educate business owners, if every business owner moved up one grade level from C to B or B to A or A to A plus in their business proficiency, think of how many families that would impact. Over 50% of the jobs that are not, over 50% of private sector jobs are in small businesses. So if we just increase the success rate of small businesses, we're going to impact all the families that work in those businesses too. So we're not working with the limited pie concept, we're working with the endless pie concept. So this is the ActionCOACH vision. Mine isn't that different. And I did something specific with mine in that I put 1,000 families. That's big. But here's the thing. If I influence 100 business owners and they employ on average 10 people, not so big, right? So, and this is very simple, improve the quality of life. Now, mine shouldn't be yours, but I just wanted to give you a personal example. Any questions about vision? I don't want to get too hung up on it. It's a trial and error. It's something that takes months, if not years, to develop and finalize. So it's going to start off very vague or rather vague. Any questions, comments about vision?
I think that's the thing I'm pulling out of this most is the enroll and inspire, because, you know, I have my personal vision for what I want to get out of it or what I want my family to get out of it, but that's
right.
not going to necessarily enroll and inspire other folks. So I thought that was fantastic.
I could not have said that better myself. So there is a clear distinction between our personal goals and our business vision. We can have a business that is purely for our benefit, and really all we want to do is make money. The challenge is you're going to have a difficult time getting people emotionally involved in that. You're going to have a difficult time getting people to be ambassadors for you. So it's just going to make your marketing more different or more difficult. And it might make the stickiness of your brand a little more difficult. People like a good story. You know, we watch Star Wars and we watch these movies that are legendary, and people like a good story. So your business, there's a great book called Story Brand that's really good about helping out with visions. I think I've got it here somewhere. I should have thought of it in advance. Anyway, it's easy to remember. It's called Story Brand. I must have let someone borrow it for a moment. Anyway, no, here it is. Building a story brand. I think I've shown that to you before. So, thank you for that input. What does stage appropriate mean? Any questions here, folks? Stage appropriate, directionally accurate. What does that mean? Any ideas?
Well, stage appropriate is going to be the stage of your business. So like, for instance, you know, mine wouldn't be to do something for maybe the whole world. I mean, that seems a little bit far reaching for a single member travel agency. You know, I mean, it could be, but you know, I think that for where you're at in your business, you have to.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, your goal could be to help 100 families a year enjoy the, you know, fill in the blank benefits of travel. You know, there's probably dozens. It could be anything like that. Directionally accurate, as opposed to, now this is for the folks in the audience who are have these detail-oriented personalities. And if you are one, you know who you are. What is the difference between being directionally accurate versus on target, specific? Any thoughts or ideas on the difference between the two?
Versus what again, Mike?
So directionally accurate means one thing. It's another way of saying in the ballpark. In the ballpark versus specific and detailed.
I think if your vision is like, vision is something that's broader. It's a, you know, it isn't, a vision isn't smart in that way. Like it's not.
That's right. Not specific measure. Yeah, exactly. And that's actually another slide in a second. So yeah, at this point, we just want to be in the right direction. Some businesses are so new that they don't even know what the business is going to look like yet. So I've used the example before. If you might have several on-ramps to your highway, and your highway is directionally going north or south, there might be several on-ramps and off-ramps until you really figure out what that business looks like. So right now, we just want to be headed in the right general direction and have a right general vision. We can spend too much time thinking about this and get into inaction or analysis paralysis. And we don't want to do that right now. So that's going to be your homework. And you've got this slide. But review the notes and slides. Give yourself, set a timer, seriously. Don't let yourself spend too much time on this. Give yourself 30 minutes and just write down what comes to mind, looking at some of the examples. If you want to shoot it to me, I'll be happy to give you feedback, but it's yours. It doesn't have to be perfect at this point. And again, I limit the time because it takes experience, and it's like moldable clay to get it to a finished product. And then I would review it about once every 30 days until it stops changing. And the reason I say 30 days is it really takes putting something away for a while. Just set a recurring reminder on your calendar, review vision, and put your vision into the appointment with yourself. It's one way to do it. And ask yourself if that still resonates. And the more experience you get, that reticular activating system will be working at that vision in the background. And you'll get it to where you want it to be, but just don't spend too much time on it right now. Not worth it. Okay, so mastery, destination mastery part 2, your mission. So mission we define as the roadmap to the vision. So it just has a little bit more detail. It's how you're going to get there. Think of it in military terms. when the military has a mission, there's an overall objective, which is the vision, which is to win. Well, there are strategic missions that are part of that. Well, your mission can change significantly over time, but the mission is just more about the roadmap. Again, this isn't something to spend a ton of time on, but ask ourselves questions like, who are we? Answer it, we are, fill in the blank. What business are we in? We do. So mission or mission statements say things like we are, we do, we serve, we are different because, or we provide more quality service, what have you. That third or fourth sentence is kind of that encapsulates everything. And we do it right, or we do it for free, or what have you. So again, not something to complicate. This is something to try on for size. You know, who are you? Now, the reason that who are you is important is because values begin to equal culture. The values that we have as individuals, and we have to ask ourselves, when we have a vision, what shared values are going to be important for us to have to attract the people or clients we're going to need to accomplish that vision? Does that make sense? What values need to be present in our business? This is still to a degree under mission, because mission can often talk about your values and your culture. What values do we need to embrace? It might be teamwork, timeliness. I've got a whole list. I sent it out, but I'll pull it up real quick. You'll see, I sent this out to you. It's just a full list. This isn't a comprehensive list. While I was going through it, I thought of probably a dozen more, but it'll at least get you thinking. Now, one thing I want to say about values is it's a personal belief of mine, in my experience, the fewer values you have, the better. And the reason for that is you want to have simple guiding principles. And whenever you have a breakdown in your business, didn't serve a customer well, didn't make goal, company's not making you money, what have you, you need to look for what value would you embrace that could begin to address that company deficiency. Does that make sense? So why are clear and shared values important? Because they give us results, they give us alignment, and they give us consistency in our companies. And then how many share values? Like I said, as few as possible in the beginning. Any questions about values or how I kind of plug into this equation right now? Not complicated stuff. Okay. And then you add more as gaps appear. Now, this is an example, and this says Action Coach 14 points of culture. However, these are really values. So these are ours. Now, the thing you want to be careful about, the word is helpful, but if I say the word commitment, Paul, is commitment possibly going to mean something different to me than it is to you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, what about integrity? Could you and I have different ideas of what integrity means?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I've seen this so many times in companies where they put up these words, these are the values we embrace. But then we don't recognize the reality that we all have many of us have different definitions for what this is. Fun's a big one. How do you define fun? Oh my gosh, in today's workplace, if you don't define that one, you got problems. We're just having fun. I didn't mean anything by it. Yeah, right. So we live in a seeking to be offended culture sometimes. So what's really important that we do, now I show this slide because quite frankly, it was easy. And this is the difference between culture, 14 points of culture and values. These definitions are culture definitions. They are way too long to be value definitions. Does that make sense? So with your company, I would encourage you to just have one sentence. At the most two, but you know, at XYZ company, commitment means we say what we're going to do, we do what we're going to say on time every time. Or if we can't, we give a heads up. You know, I mean, that's more the type of thing I'm talking about. But I wanted to use this because it's an example of too much information. Now, again, this isn't the Action Coach culture list. It's the, I'm sorry, it isn't the values list. It's the culture list. These are our values, but this isn't how we would describe them. These are our culture. Okay? All right, so this is the next step where we get into balancing culture and values. Now, I'm going to put all three of these up here, all these up here at once. Think about the different stakeholders within a business. And can anybody, you know, I've got some of the answers on the screen, but who are the different stakeholders in a business?
Yourself.
Yourself, right? Because if the owner doesn't make money, what happens?
There's no business.
No, there's no business. So think about that for a minute. Do you think it's possible that a business owner with the best of intentions could have all these values that have nothing to do with making money and then have a business that doesn't succeed? You see my point there? And then who else is a stakeholder that's really important? There's the owner. What's another one?
Employees, if you have them.
Employees, if you have them.
Clients.
Clients, yep. Community, maybe. I may or may not care about that as much. It just depends. But kind of a rule of thumb is, you know, come up with between 1 and 3 values that serve or address the major needs of each constituency. So, as a business owner, you know, you might look for values like growth. You might look for values like productivity. You might look for values like dependability. I don't know, but you've got to make sure you have values that serve you as the business owner, because we'll forget about ourselves as business owners and take care of everybody else. I see it all the time. Then you want to look for 1 to 3 values that really address and speak to the needs of customers. And then at the same time, you want to do the same thing for employees. Now, here's a question. Let's say that I was going to do 2 values for each of those 3, which would give me 6. Is it possible I could have less than 6? Because it's possible that some values address 2 or some values address all 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see where that might be the case? Do customers care about dependability? Yep. Do business owners care about dependability? Or care about dependability? Yep. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit. And this is just a test. And that way we have balance. We balance our values to build a culture that's balanced. Interestingly enough, can you think of another way if you have a team that values can be used? That's a very obscure question. But how else can we use our values when we fill in the blank?
Like when we review.
Think about people.
Or when we review or are you talking about hiring people?
There you go. Yeah. When we recruit, when we review. When was the last time someone put values in a job description or in a performance evaluation? I mean, sometimes people do. Yeah, exactly. So these become endemic of our culture and help us run bigger pieces of our business. So this may seem very high level. Why do I need to do this for a small business? I would submit that a small business, it is just as important because there's fewer people to get this right. So we've got to make sure that we have these things in place. And it helps us with our decision making, right? When values are clear, it really helps us make decisions, because if in the beginning we decided we were going to be above all things an organization of integrity, that's going to drive us to do refunds, guarantees when they need to, and just realize that if we are who we are, we're going to be okay. And that's the moment of truth, is when money or time really gets stressed. And it also helps, again, with marketing and recruiting. So sample mission statements, again, there's a bunch of them. Again, I've provided you guys with copies of these. They might have a few more words, but they talk about who you're serving, who you are, and possibly what you bring to the marketplace a little bit. Again, a couple of sentences is normally enough. And it's neat, really neat, and even easier to leverage if your vision and your mission are such that you can put them on your website or put them on your business card. It really helps people understand who you are. And, we're all in sales, but do people make decisions logically or emotionally?
100% emotionally.
Yeah. People will make decisions emotionally, and then they look to justify it logically. Now, some people are a little more logic than emotion, but at some point in time, the reason people make a decision is they're either they're trying to get rid of some level of dissatisfaction, or they're trying to create a better vision for tomorrow, right? Personal vision. All right. So a little bit more homework. It's not always like this, but it's real simple. It's the stuff I already shared. Who are you? What are you in business? What business are you in? What makes you different? Who are your customers? Now, you can't say we have great quality and say that that's a differentiator. I don't recall the last time a company said we have mediocre quality. So, if your claim for what makes you different is quality and customer service, you can use that idea, but you can't use those words. It just goes right in one ear and out the other. You have to make it more real. So if you want to say customer satisfaction, you might say we have a 100% money back guarantee if you're not happy. If you're going to say quality, you might say, depending on the industry you're in, we have a 99.975 accuracy rate with orders being delivered on time. So if you're going to use generic words, you have to quantify them. Otherwise, they're just blah, blah, blah. Does that make sense? Paul knows all about that. He's in the marketing business. Blah, blah, blah doesn't sell much. All right. So this is where we start to put it all together a little bit. And that's kind of a 90-day plan. And I had alluded to this a little bit earlier, but we start to think about goals and targets in our business. Let's see if I've got a question here. Had a question pop up. Awesome. I love it. Feel free to share them with everybody if you want. So direction and focus. That's the purpose between us having goals and targets. And we start with our destination and vision. We clarify our mission, and then we start to break that down into goals and targets. Okay, so what does that mean? What do we want to do in the next 90 days or so to get our direction, focus, and to start moving? Because ideas without movement don't really accomplish much. Now, one of the neat things about setting goals is not only do we set goals for the outcome that we'll get, but has anybody ever said or ever heard the quote that we should all aspire to make at least $1 million in business, not because of what we will make, but who we will become in the process? Has anybody heard that before? I like that quote because it really is, it's important to have goals that stretch us because it makes us, I've got a sign over here that says be, do, have. It improves or increases our be. We want to become more to achieve more. So what types of goals or targets will move us toward our vision now? We want to be sure. I love the idea of really fun goals about numbers, things that really move you from a heart level. But oftentimes I will see people neglect some important things. Now, I want to say this as an alibi or up front. Don't spend all of your time on this before you get moving with some of those revenue goals, profit goals, people goals, etc. But we got to make sure we get the bases covered. So this is a checklist for you. These are some of the areas that I see businesses that have been around 5, 10, 15, even 20 years, and they do not have all of these covered. I have business owners who I know who 15 years in business, they don't even have liability insurance, or they don't have personal insurance if they get hit by a truck. So there's so many things that in addition to the business piece of it, you do also have to think about mitigating risk. So there are some universal business priorities that need to be, one of those plates that's spinning, and depending on the risk level of your business, those need to be front loaded. So legal, do you have an LLC or a DBA? Are you licensed, registered as you need to be? Are you compliant with HR laws, tax laws, regulations? As a business owner, we don't get an alibi for saying I didn't know. We have to know. If there are things that you don't think you know about, ask me. And I probably have resources that I can point you to or have some experience in those areas. Again, we need to make sure that we insure ourselves against a risk. Again, educated, compliant, reported, audited. You got to have a budget, keeping track of expenses and income. Also, we talked a little bit about cash and credit last time as well. It's really important to make sure that before you grow your business at an accelerated rate, that you do a forecast to figure out what kind of cash demands are going to be needed. Because as I mentioned, one of the drivers that makes companies go out of business is they grow too fast and they have to pay bills before they get paid by their customers. So the more a business grows, the more important these things become. Obviously, happy customers are important. Revenue. I ask a question here about the difference between revenue and profit. Revenue is just sales dollars coming in, but profit is another thing. It means you take in more than you spend. This is a big one. One of the number one pieces of advice that I give newer business owners is to minimize your overhead. What's overhead? Overhead is a commitment that persists. It's a fixed cost that you have whether you sell anything or not. And successful businesses minimize their fixed expenses. They don't go out and get a big office before they've got a big customer base. They go as they grow. They might use a fractional workspace. They might work out of their house, which is even more normal now than it was 9 months ago. But really resist those commitments and really resist bulk purchases. Hey, if you buy a year's worth of advertising, I'll give you a 30% discount. $5,000 later, what good is that discount? You just took $5,000 of your cash and now you're afraid to spend money on any other marketing. Not that that would be you, but I've seen that happen time and time again. So now I want to make a major exception here that I covered a little bit during the 6 steps review last time. Is marketing, for anybody who can remember, is marketing an expense or an investment? And then defend your answer.
I think Paul should answer this one.
He might be biased.
It's just teed up for me.
There you go. Tell us, Paul.
Marketing is absolutely an investment because I talk about this often with business owners. Is I'm not looking to add another piece to your overhead here.
That's right.
I'm looking to bring you more business than you have now, such that it way more than pays for the marketing that you're going to invest in. Way more.
Yeah.
You don't want to spend $100 on marketing to make $101 back. You want to spend $100 on marketing to make, you probably know the numbers better than I would as far as what the actual is, but in my mind, it would be 6, 7, 8 times your return.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it depends. So you answered the question and defended it. Marketing is an expense when you make the same or less than you invest. So if you invest $100 in marketing and you only get $100 business out of it during the time frame that is reasonable, that's an expense. It's not an investment. Our charge as business owners is to work with qualified marketing professionals. Certainly Paul can guide you. I can guide you. It's what I do too. We're different in different spheres. We're complementary services. But marketing has to be an investment. Now, full disclosure, the vast majority of marketing fails to meet that test. And it's because business owners are more apt to trial and error than they are to go through the time that it takes to interview qualified professionals to figure out the right approach for them. So rather than take the risk of investing with a guy like Paul, or working with a marketing coach, or an advertising magazine, or what have you, well, I don't want to spend money. It's the first question, it's the first thought that comes to mind. I don't want to spend any money, so I'm going to try it on my own. 70 to 80% of marketing fails. And that's largely because business owners either don't have the time, or they don't really have the refined skill set to both identify, implement, manage, and track results of effective marketing. So I've put a whole lot of time on that. I probably need to speed up a little bit, but those are big. All right, what are your business goals? Goals need to be SMART. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. The acronym spells it out. If you set a goal, run it through this test. If within your goal, it isn't specific, it isn't measurable, or it's not reasonably attainable, or it doesn't have a result in it or a time frame, it's not really a great goal. Does that mean you shouldn't have it? Well, maybe not, but a great goal, and I literally list this out, S-M-A-R-T, check, 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 check. If you've got that, it's a goal that will drive you. If you don't have that, it's easier for us to weasel out. Whatever your goals are, get accountability with somebody, because people who have accountability in achieving their goals more than double their success rate. All right, so homework number 3. Write out some of your goals for Q4. You know, we're in it. And as much as we would all probably, in some ways, I'm glad to say 2020 is almost over. But 2021 is less than 90 days away. So we all ought to have goals at least for this quarter, and we need to be thinking about next quarter. So it should move you towards your vision. It should respect your mission. It balances short-term needs for revenue. Doesn't do any good to have purely altruistic goals. If you're not making money off of them in a week, a month, a quarter, you're going to find yourself leaning toward desperation. And then we forget our goals and our values and our vision. And we start acting out of fear, and that's not a good place to be. And you also want your goals not to create a long-term problem, like one that I mentioned. So these are tests. You don't want them to be so consuming that you ignore other priorities. I have seen, how many of you have seen this in big companies? Big company says, yeah, I know this region can grow 27% next year, but we only grew 10% last year. Yeah, I know, but you can do it. Based on what evidence and what plan? And then the organization puts all of their resources into 27%. They come in at 20%, which is a failure. Everybody gets beaten up for it. And then they miss out. They ignore customer service. They ignore profitability. I've seen this multiple times, especially with big companies, but small companies can do it too. An owner can be so focused on doing things right, got to have A+, that they don't do enough. So these are really good concepts to resonate on. And if you want to start on, if you want to figure out where should you start, go back to your 6 steps diagram and look at some of the breakout items. Those are all things to work on. You know, time, service, destination we worked on today, financial. You know, there's 5 ways to grow your business. Leads, lead conversion rate, average dollar per sale. Those are all things that you can work on. Repeat business. You can go right on up. 9 steps to systematize your business, 7 steps to a winning team. So there's lots. If you just look at that 1-page handout for 6 steps, it'll give you a bunch of things to think about. Any questions so far? Then there's the how do you do it. Please don't try to master more than 1 or 2 a month. If you have a team, fine. But just pick 1 or 2 a month, resist the temptation. It's better to put them on an individual piece of paper, print it out, and make a book. Don't even look at number 2 until you finish number 1. And then once you finish number 1, roll it over. Okay? Resist temptation. So this is really kind of a summary of your homework. Let me see. Vision, 30 minutes. Values and mission to achieve the vision, about an hour. And then break these down into October, November, and December. Does that make sense? So don't try and do it all in October. In fact, we're more than a week in now. So you might be looking at goals that you can start to have an impact toward the end of the month, depending on your business. Depends on your business, right? And here's some guidances. Again, don't go for perfection, go for movement, go for starting points. Don't go for an A+, because other priorities will emerge during your business and during your experience. And your priorities and goals might morph or change as you grow. So I have known people to spend hours and days on the perfect 27-point plan. They push the go button, they get on step 2, and they're like, this isn't going to work. So it's better to have a C+ or a B- plan and get started, fail forward, learn by doing, and then adjust directionally accurate as you go along. Does that make sense? Does that make anybody, does that offend anybody's sensibilities? It's a great time for honesty. Does anybody have a hard time with that?
It doesn't offend me, Mike.
Did you feel like I was speaking to you?
Yes, absolutely.
You're not the only one.
I'm sure.
We all have some of this. So if there's a takeaway, the takeaway is get moving. A B today is better than an A tomorrow, and learn as we go along, right? Here's another extreme. I don't know. I haven't sensed this personality in anybody on the call. There are some personalities and business owners, they hear an idea and they implement it like right now. And as a consequence, they don't take it through a vetting process. They don't look at their vision. They don't look at their mission, their values. They don't look at what other priorities are they going to compromise. And that can be a mistake too. Years ago, when hybrid vehicles first came out on the market, there was an auto dealership in Charleston, South Carolina. This was a long time ago, actually. This was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, they went to an all hybrid truck fleet. They just decided, we're not going to sell gasoline vehicles. We're going to go all hybrid. They didn't have research. They didn't have data. That lasted for about 60 days. And then they were giving these trucks away because they'd committed to all this inventory. And I think they're still in business, but it about wrecked their business. So we need to be careful with fundamental shifts in our business without thinking them through or getting somebody else to talk through it. All right, so we're going to have plenty of time here for Q&A, but next workshop is October 21st. Time and self-mastery. This is going to be really good. I'm actually taking the deck of info that I've used before, and there's this whole class that we sell at ActionCOACH called Time Rich, Time Mastery. I'm going to reposition that. I'm going to add some additional resources from Darren Hardy. I'm going to incorporate some things from The One Thing, Tiny Habits, and some other books that are phenomenal on this subject. And I think you're really going to get a lot out of it. So you will be able to continue, if you just go to the invite on your calendar, the link for LinkedIn, or I'm sorry, for Zoom won't change. I'm keeping the same Zoom. This is an existing meeting. It'll just continue every week like a BNI or anything else. So you'll just go to the same link every 2 weeks and you'll be able to get in. For the A students on the call, or those with an excess of time, there are a couple things that you can do that would really get you excited about this. There's a podcast here. I'm going to see if I can drop this in the chat real quick. I don't think I can. Let me escape. Sorry. Okay, last time I'll try that. So if you want this, if you can't access this way, I'll send out an email with this slide on it as an action item. Unless one of you can copy it from the screen.
I just tried to,
Yeah.
I just tried to, but it didn't link the last line to the blue. So
I'll
just,
send that out.
if you could, yeah.
I'll send that out via email, no problem. I didn't think about copying that to a notepad, but I'll send it out to you all and follow up.
Well, and if you've downloaded the PDF, you can go straight to it from that link in the PDF.
Exactly. Exactly. So if anybody needs it, just let me know. I'll send out a follow-up though, just to make it easy. What this is the author of the co-author of The One Thing, which is all about how do we get movement in life. And the mantra here is, in order to go big, you got to start small. And there's this neat concept about dominoes. A domino, a 2-inch high domino, can knock down a domino the size of the Eiffel Tower. Do you know how? I didn't know.
Knocking down a whole bunch of others first.
There you go. That's exactly right. So you take a domino that's 2-inch and have it knock down a 3.5-inch. And then a 3.5 knocks down a 5. And I think the 17th domino, if I'm not mistaken, is the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So the One Thing takes this approach to life and goals and weight loss and business. And it was really devised by the founder of Keller Williams Realty. And it's tried and true. And then this guy, BJ Fogg, wrote a complimentary book called How Tiny Habits Create Extraordinary Change. And I've been exposed to both of them. They're complimentary, they're wonderful, they're awesome. What I'm going to teach is a very basic version. And then these are go deeper strategies that I would highly recommend. You'll get the best of both worlds, and your mind might melt a little bit the first time through if you go to this podcast, because it's one interviewing the other. It's about 1 hour and 10 minutes. And I think you can also get a transcript of it. Both of these books are available in both audiobook and you can buy them on Amazon. I like to buy paper books because I can write in them still. But anyway, this is for the A students. If anyone also has time and wants to, I will send you if you request it. You have to request it though, because this is a $900 product. If you request access to 30X, I will give you access to 30X for at least a couple of weeks. And that will give you an opportunity to listen to a couple of the founder of ActionCOACH. He does 2 30-minute videos on time and self-mastery. And if you do those in advance, it'll really make for a vital discussion. I recognize you didn't sign up for, 2 hours of homework and then 2 hours of audio video. So no sweat if you don't. The offer is open till the end of ActionCLUB. But I want to always provide resources. I don't want to ever hold anybody back. I want to provide resources for people who want to go further faster. So with that, what's a takeaway or a learning from today? Anybody?
Well, I want to actually go back and highlight for just based on experience, my own experience. And I'm thinking of Chris in particular, just the type of business that you're going to be doing. And I'm not sure, Adrian or Teresa, what you'll be doing. But that idea of resist the temptation to buy in bulk and don't create any long-term problems. Early on, those are 2 of the big mistakes I made in the first business that I had about 12 years ago. I made both those mistakes. And they both cost me big time. One was a 2-year contract for marketing. So, that's just something, one of the things about, and I'm not making a commercial for the company I work for, but we don't have contracts. And I wouldn't sell marketing if I had to put people into contracts. So one of the worst decisions you can make is getting into a long-term contract for marketing, especially as your first foray into that marketing. So I just want to reiterate that is, hey man, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, used the vomit bucket.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yep. Overhead. I'm all about investing, all about it, but I am not about spending, not about expenses.
It's a real temptation. I mean, I was thinking about, with appliance repair, that's something where you kind of have to have an inventory of parts, but you don't need to buy the whole store to start the business. In
That's
fact,
right.
you probably shouldn't buy any of it to start the business. You should get it as you need it as much as possible, and eventually build up your inventory over time. That's
I
a
want to
perfect
build on
example.
that. I want to build on that. It's better to pay more per
Yes,
unit and buy it as you need it than it is to buy in bulk and quote save a bunch of money. There are exceptions, but just
sure.
like Paul said, and I've learned that experience. I've learned that I've owned multiple businesses, and I had to learn that experience. I had to learn that the hard way too. I bought close to 6 months worth of inventory for a business because, this was 15 years ago, because I got a killer deal on it. And a year later, when I closed that business down, I could not throw the stuff away. So I stored it in my attic for 3 years.
Mm.
Hmm.
And then I finally got to the point where I could stomach throwing
Right.
that money. It was thousands of dollars, thousands. So don't let it.
I don't want to beat a dead horse, but a classic example of that today in modern times is buying a website too soon. Buying, quote unquote, a website. I've seen companies go out in the early days and spend $6,000 or $8,000 on a website. That's
Yes.
doing you nothing at the start.
I
And
did build
pay.
So
a website for 2 years. Like I just, I didn't see a need for it. And so, I waited until I had, I mean, it didn't, when I finally did do it, it was a small investment or I guess expense, to do it. But I wouldn't have been a good idea to do it in the beginning, to spend money to do it, because that's not, I mean, my bulk of my clients come from referrals. So the
right.
only people that are going to my website are people that may have been referred to me, that they're just going out there to make sure I'm legit, which in the beginning I just had Facebook and I had my travel leaders site, and it was enough. And it's probably still enough, but you know, it's nice now that I do have a website. I didn't spend a lot of money on it, and I don't continue to spend a lot of money on it to keep it, but I totally agree with that. Um,
Websites, paying to automate processes. I talked to a business owner who has spent tens of thousands of dollars to automate a process within their business. And I'm going to guess the business probably does a couple $100,000 a year. And it isn't just the tens of thousands of dollars, but it's taken 18 months. And I see business owners implementing software, industry specific software that's very complicated, doesn't work, saps their time, saps their money. So yeah, there's just, think small. If you ever want to run anything by anyone, please shoot me a note. I'll have a complimentary conversation with you. Don't buy, Dave Ramsey calls it buying the big red truck. Don't buy the big red truck until you can pay cash for it and feel good about it. So what other questions? Any takeaways? Any other takeaways from today?
I really like the idea of the values. I've never really gone through that exercise, and I like them for the reasons that you would want them, to be able to potentially hire someone, or to even review your own business. Are these values, in doing your own personal business review, are these values still relevant, and are you living up to these values? I've never really listed values in the way that you did it. So that was really, I liked that part a lot.
Great.
I think for me,
Yes, sir.
one part that I liked was the fail forward, and listening to all this, and being that I am starting fresh, I'm starting a new business, to hear the numbers on how many businesses fail, but to know that failure doesn't mean that it stops, but I can fail forward, I can learn from those mistakes. And for me, that was encouraging instead of a disparity, to see, oh, hey, this many businesses fail, they fail for this reason. But the word fail forward means, hey, you're going to make mistakes, take small steps, and grow from those. And that was something that actually resonated very deeply with me.
Good. Yeah, we want to try to avoid big expensive mistakes, right? That's one of the things to try to avoid. How about you, Adrian? Any one takeaway for you?
Yeah, probably the same takeaway that I got from you yesterday, Mike. And it's kind of a caveat off of Chris. Just knowing to fail forward with me, of course, being a perfectionist is not the best way to be, especially starting up. I guess directionally accurate versus being on target was a big thing for me. It doesn't have to be perfect, just head in the right direction. So that was a big
Right.
takeaway.
Good.
There's a
And
great
Adrian,
saying that I heard. I'm sorry, Adrian, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly.
Right. I like it.
you know that is true. I haven't heard that put that
I
way
hadn't heard
before.
it either, but I like it.
Something else that I'll share with you, Adrian, is the other folks here on the call are all in the Charlotte area. So that should be of interest to you. You're already meeting people in the greater Charlotte area.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm looking to move that way really soon, at least within the next 6 to 8 months, I would say. So.
Yeah. Well, when you make that decision, we can sure get you connected.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
for
see
sure.
3 connections right here.
Yeah. Awesome. So and then I'm always looking for feedback. So if you want to chat or send me anything, you can send it public chat or private chat or send me an email. If there's anything that you think that we need to do better, let me know, because there's always value in the feedback. I always want to continue to improve what we do here and make it more valuable. You can tell me on a scale of 1 to 10. I won't take time to do it now, but if you want to, let me know what type of a rating you give us. And then I want to give you a save the date before we jump off here. December the 8th. See if I can pull that down a little bit here. I've got 3 screens open, so it takes me a minute to get to my screen sometimes. Or not at all. Here we go. So 8 a.m. to 12:30. This is just something to put on your calendar. Don't worry about it right now. But it's going to be a half day dedicated to building your 2021 growth plan. It's likely to be Zoom. It may also have an in-person option. After the event I attended today, I'm not sure if I'm even going to offer in person, because a number of action coaches have been doing this. It's called Growth Club. It's really a planning club. We meet quarterly, and we've been doing these things remotely for 9 months. So I don't know if it's quite ready. This will be a great time for you to take the work that you do, vision, values, mission, and do a review on them. And then do a diagnostic of your business, kind of a rating of where you are in each of the bottom 4 steps of the 6 steps. And then identify 3 projects for the first quarter, or for each quarter of 2010. That's funny. Sorry, typo. That would be a little revisionist history, but we'll roll on. And then you'll come up with a complete action plan with first steps and timelines. So what we think about is, what's your dissatisfaction? What's your vision for the future? What are the first steps that you need to take toward those actions? What resistance are you going to run into? It could be people, funds, yourself, head trash, and then timelines. So it's really a neat, compact event. I do it at a really low price, especially if somebody's involved in ActionCLUB or other venues. It's just something to save the date on. It'll be interesting. I haven't done one online before, but hundreds of other action coaches have. And I'm looking forward to it being a really cool event. We can do breakout rooms and all that fun stuff. So just something to put on your calendar. Well, we're a couple minutes over. What questions do y'all have? Does 75 minutes-ish seem like a good amount of time for this? Did it seem less rushed today? Good. Thumbs up.
The amount of content for the time.
It was the right amount or too much?
The right amount of content for the time.
Okay, good.
I thought
Good. I have, oh, good. Paul copied the podcast information in. If you catch the chat, if you open up the chat and hit the file to the right of the file button, it'll give you an opportunity to save that. So that's great. I have taken, ActionCLUB has about 20 modules to it. It used to be 8 modules. It's always really been 20 modules. And because we're high achievers at ActionCOACH, we try to cram it into 8. And I found it was too much information. So I'm breaking it down. We're going to have the 6 most important ones now. And for those who want to continue on, I'll have options for further study too. So, hey, wonderful to have everybody here. Thank you so much for your time commitment and your contribution and additions to our time. And if you don't have any questions, I'll look forward to talking to you soon.
See you guys soon.
Y'all.
All right, take care.